The world is holding its breath. Today, on October 28, 2025, tension between Russia and NATO is at its highest in decades. The war in Ukraine shattered the illusion that large-scale conflict in Europe was a thing of the past. Now people everywhere are asking, what if Russia and NATO actually went to war? Russian actions are growing bolder. Drones cross into NATO airspace, undersea cables are cut, and psychological games play out along the borders. These are calculated moves to test NATO's unity. In response, NATO is reinforcing its defenses and deploying new technologies. Both sides seem to be inching toward a dangerous collision. The stakes? A single spark could ignite a massive conflict. This video will break down what a Russia-NATO war might look like, without military jargon. We'll examine Russia's use of drones, its Kaliningrad stronghold, and its nuclear threats. We'll also look at NATO's preparations, stronger borders, advanced tech, and a renewed sense of purpose. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for everyone. The outcome depends on whether the war is short and sharp, or long and grinding, and whether leaders can prevent a conventional fight from spiraling into nuclear disaster. This isn't just a military chess game, it's a crisis with real human consequences. By exploring both sides' strengths and weaknesses, we'll see why avoiding this war is so critical. The current standoff is one of the most dangerous moments for global security in generations. Russia has mastered hybrid warfare, a blend of tactics that keeps NATO off balance without triggering all-out war. Drones are a key tool. In September 2025, Russia sent a swarm into Poland, not to destroy, but to test defenses and create anxiety. These cheap drones force NATO to scramble expensive jets, draining resources. Russia also uses sabotage, like cutting undersea cables with unmarked ships, creating confusion and making it hard for NATO to respond. Is a cut cable an act of war? NATO members often disagree, which is exactly what Russia wants. Psychological operations add to the pressure. Soviet-era films broadcast in border towns, smuggler balloons floated from Belarus. These tactics sow fear and division, making people question their safety and their government's strength. The goal, destabilize NATO from within, testing the alliance's resolve without crossing the line into open conflict. Russia keeps its actions in the gray zone, hoping to paralyze NATO's decision-making. This patient, persistent strategy forces NATO to rethink what it means to be at war. Hybrid warfare is about winning without firing a shot, by undermining unity and trust. It's a challenge that strikes at the very heart of Western security. Kaliningrad, a small, heavily armed Russian exclave between Poland and Lithuania, is a fortress aimed at NATO's heart. It houses elite troops, a powerful fleet, and Iskander missiles capable of striking major European cities with little warning. These nuclear-capable missiles force NATO to tread carefully, knowing any conflict could escalate fast. Kaliningrad's location is key. It sits beside the Suwalki Gap, a narrow corridor linking the Baltic states to the rest of NATO. If Russia seized the Suwalki Gap, it could cut off Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia from their allies. This would present NATO with a terrible choice: escalate or let Russia solidify its gains. Kaliningrad gives Russia a permanent advantage, keeping NATO on the defensive in one of its most vulnerable regions. The threat is constant, and the risk of escalation is always present. For NATO, Kaliningrad is a strategic nightmare that can't be ignored. Russia's military still relies on speed, mass, and overwhelming firepower. Its main advantage is proximity. Russia can strike quickly, aiming for a rapid victory before NATO can fully respond. The likely target, the Suwalki Gap, to isolate the Baltic states. Russia's mass production of cheap drones, over 1.5 million in 2024, creates an economic imbalance, overwhelming NATO's expensive defenses. Russia is willing to use foreign troops and accept high casualties, a strategy Western societies struggle to match. If a conventional attack stalls, Russia plays its nuclear card, threatening escalation if it faces defeat. The Burevestnik cruise missile and other new weapons are meant to keep NATO guessing. The real power is in escalation dominance. By constantly reminding NATO of its nuclear arsenal, Russia complicates every decision. NATO must always weigh the risk of nuclear war, which could make it hesitate at a critical moment. Russia's strategy is to move fast, create new realities, and force NATO to react. The threat of nuclear escalation hangs over every move. This gives Russia leverage, even if it can't win a long war. The risk of miscalculation is ever present. The Ukraine war jolted NATO into action. The alliance is now rapidly reinforcing its eastern flank, especially in countries bordering Russia. Air patrols are constant over the Baltics, with jets from across Europe flying together to show unity. On the ground, Germany is permanently deploying a combat brigade to Lithuania. A clear message: an attack on one is an attack on all. Having heavy forces in place means NATO can respond in hours, not weeks, making a Russian land grab much harder. Local defense forces are growing too. Lithuania's Riflemen's Union has swelled to over 17,000 volunteers, ready to resist any invasion. This porcupine defense ensures that even if Russia breaks through, it faces a determined insurgency. NATO is also conducting larger exercises and moving troops faster than ever before. The alliance's new focus: deterrence through strength, not appeasement. Leaders are openly preparing for scenarios once thought unthinkable. The message to Moscow is clear: the line is drawn, and it will be defended. NATO's edge is technology and innovation. The Ukraine war proved that smart tactics and advanced systems can counter a larger force, like Sea Baby drones crippling Russia's Black Sea fleet. To counter Russia's drone swarms, NATO is building a drone wall, a network of sensors and electronic defenses, stretching from Norway to the Black Sea. This high-tech shield turns Russia's numbers into a disadvantage. NATO also dominates in space, with satellites providing unmatched intelligence and communication. Stealth fighters like the F-35 can strike deep into enemy territory, aiming to blind Russian forces and control the skies. Innovation is constant: AI for faster decisions, new materials for better armor, next-gen cyber weapons. In a long war, NATO's ability to adapt and field new tech would be decisive. Russia may start with a plan, but NATO can change the rules as the conflict evolves. This adaptability is NATO's secret weapon. Russia and NATO represent two very different military philosophies. Russia's strengths: geography, speed, and a willingness to take risks and absorb losses. Its proximity gives it a first-mover advantage, letting it strike before NATO can fully respond. Moscow's readiness to escalate, including nuclear threats, creates a psychological challenge for NATO. Democratic nations are more cautious, wary of casualties and nuclear risks, but NATO's advantages are overwhelming in a long war. Its economy is 10 times Russia's, and its combined military power is unmatched. The alliance's technological edge and unity, Article 5's attack on one is attack on all, are force multipliers. Russia would face not just one country but the full might of the United States, UK, Germany, France, and more. In a drawn-out conflict, NATO's resources and innovation would grind Russia down. The real challenge is in the opening days. Can NATO hold the line until its full power is brought to bear? That's the question both sides are preparing for. What if Russia and NATO actually clash? In a short, limited war, Russia might seize the Suwalki Gap, daring NATO to escalate. This would test the alliance's unity and resolve, but if the conflict drags on, NATO's economic and technological might would turn the tide. The US would surge forces, NATO would dominate the skies, and Russia would be pushed back. The risk as defeat looms: Russia could use a tactical nuclear weapon to force a settlement. Crossing the nuclear threshold would be catastrophic, risking all-out nuclear war. Even a conventional war would devastate Eastern Europe, trigger a refugee crisis, and shatter the global economy. Once nukes are used, the idea of winning disappears. Everyone loses. That's why both sides, despite the saber-rattling, have a shared interest in avoiding direct conflict. The consequences are simply too terrible to contemplate. The real victory is in preventing war from breaking out at all. The stakes are nothing less than the future of Europe and the world. Avoiding escalation is the only path to safety. The Russia-NATO standoff is the most dangerous security crisis in a generation. Russia uses geography, hybrid tactics, and nuclear threats to keep NATO off balance. NATO counters with overwhelming economic power, technology, and alliance unity. In a long war, NATO's victory is likely, but at a catastrophic cost. The real question isn't who would win, but whether war can be avoided. A short conflict could spiral into a disaster neither side can control. Both sides must combine strength with communication to prevent miscalculation. The standoff is not a game, it's about the peace and stability of the entire planet. Leaders must ensure this cold conflict never turns hot. The future depends on their ability to keep the peace.